Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Marketing on Tap podcast and vlog. This is my mate Danny Brown. I am Sam Fiorella. Today, we're calling out some other horrible marketing campaigns, because apparently that's a thing we like to do. Danny sent me a link early this morning on a campaign for Pussy Juice beer. So that in itself should probably tell you what's going to happen or what's going wrong with that.
That's just the tame one.
And that's, you know what, that is the tame one of the three that we've seen. So there's a series of UK-based campaigns that went off the rails. Best of intentions, as they say. Sometimes, what is it? What's the saying?
Best intentions gone awry or something.
Yeah.
There's a Scottish saying, and I should really know it.
You really should. You are Scottish, aren't you?
Allegedly.
So anyway, it's the path to the path to hell is paved with best intentions. So that's, I think the case here. We've got three marketing examples of really well-intentioned campaigns, but when they hit the market, they just went awry. So we want to break those down and talk about how you could potentially avoid them. But first, we want to have a little bit of laugh at their expense.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about maybe if you're going to be considering something like this, you want to get a little bit edgy, where you should and where you shouldn't. However, before we start that,
so this is going to be an interesting one today.
Yes.
You may have noticed I poured a third glass because we realised that our producer Robert was never getting any beer, except maybe just the end taste that we left over. And we thought, he works hard, so we better start feeding him some beer as well. But this is an IPA, a proper IPA, as opposed to the one that we had the other week, which was like a session IPA. And it's by Railway City Brewing. It's Dead Elephant IPA. This is actually a really solid IPA from Railway City Brewing, and it's a 6.5%. It's a nice, nice percentage there. I'm not really sure what the IBU is because it's not actually on the can, so they're not. Some brewers don't count the IBUs. They don't really go with that route. But anywho, it's a typical IPA. There's like a lot of citrus there. You can smell the hops right away when you smell it. So I'm interested to see what these guys think of it. I
want to see the look on Robert's face.
Cheers, cheers, guys. Robert's not a fan. That's not a slight on Railway City Brewing, but Robert's not a fan of the IPA.
Well, I'm not a fan of IPA in general, any IPA. So this one is a traditional IPA.
Yeah.
The Dead Elephant is kind of funny, just given how the IPA came about in the first place, right?
Right, exactly, yeah. If you like IPAs, Railway City Brewing Dead Elephant IPA is a really good, example of the style.
You know what? I don't know that I would drink this over and over and over again. I certainly wouldn't have cans of this in my beer fridge. But,
right.
To sit and enjoy one, I think I could do it.
Yeah. Anywho.
Okay, so let's talk about the first case study. Do we want to start with the tame one? No, let's go.
Let's go to this one.
All right. So, Revolve, UK brand, fashion brand, and they, again, with the best of intentions, they had a charity collaboration against cyberbullying,
which is
from
awesome.
What I understand. Yeah. So they took some celebrities like Lena Dunham, Suki Waterhouse, and they were asked to submit comments that they've received from online trolls about their body shape. These are models and actresses. Some of them are really, really skinny. Some of them are average builds, or we would consider a normal build. But the one thing that was, I guess, in common, they all had in common, is that they all received some pretty hateful comments about their body. No matter how skinny, or big they were, they all got pretty nasty comments. And so what this fashion designer says, we are going to photograph you in a sweatshirt with that saying on it to raise awareness of cyberbullying, right? To say that even, so in this one case, we have a model with a with a sweatshirt that says being fat is not beautiful. Being fat is an excuse, with the person that gave her that comment. And they posted this on their website with a whole series of these, and needless to say, the backlash was terrible.
Well, yeah, and I think the problem was they released it early without, prepping the campaign. The celebrities that took part in the campaign weren't even aware that it had been released. It wasn't scheduled to be released at that time. So yeah, the backlash, because there was no context there, it was, as you can imagine, immediate when you look at some of the other examples of the comments. But yeah, it was immediate. And especially because the one you used about being fat as an excuse, it's probably a size 0 model.
Well, that's the other thing, right?
It's wearing it.
And I think I like the idea that they were saying, like, this is what people are saying, highlighting the amount of negativity that's happening online. So again, best of intention. So I'm not calling this brand out, and the ads and the articles that we're reading are not calling the company out. In fact, they're giving the company a lot of praise.
Yeah, it's the execution.
It's just for, the execution. So in this particular one, they had influencer Felicity Howard, as you said, is like a size 0, wearing the sweatshirt. So without context, which is really, I guess, the theme of this podcast, the context in your marketing, you have to make sure that the audience is prepped for it. And in this case, they certainly weren't. So now, the comments that came back were pretty funny. One of them was, cool, even retailers are trolling us now, and yet our thin allies will stop shopping there. You know what I mean? So there was some pretty funny comments.
I often think that the brands that come out with the campaigns like that should hire some of the people that are commenting, for future campaigns, because they're really smart, the comebacks, and that would be like if you want to get an edgy campaign, that would be the kind of edge to take. And I'm curious why they never used the actual celebs.
That had those comments made against them. I'm not sure. The response that they put out on social media was the sweatshirt went up early. This is a collaboration with 5 women with the worst troll quotes on social media. The point was to shine a light on how horrible trolling is, and the proceeds benefit charity. So basically, it's the opposite of what it seems.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be tongue-in-cheek, you have to make sure, again, that your audience is going to understand that, so whatever that is. Yeah. So one example I'm thinking of where maybe this has worked, if you watch any of the late night shows like, David Letterman, the old day, or Conan.
All right,
Yeah, I'm old, so I'm still like a David Letterman guy.
Excuse me.
But, you see that sometimes they get celebrities reading...
mean tweets.
Mean tweets about themselves, right? So the context is there. It's set up that we're having the person who the mean tweets are being posted to is reading those things about themselves, right? Yeah. So it's almost like they're saying it to themselves, and so they're calling it out. And just making the point that this doesn't bother me. You can say whatever you want. This doesn't bother me. I'll even make it public. I'll read it out. I'll make you a celebrity by reading out your comments on national television. So that's an example of how it can be done right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. It's maybe not even just the context and prepping the audience. It's also the medium that you're using where people are going to be engaging in this. Right. So that's obviously one thing. But talking about that context, how would they have set up the context? If this, was to have been done right, if we were working with them, what would we have recommended?
Well, I think you've got to do, something like this especially, it's almost like a guerrilla marketing campaign. And the next example is definitely kind of like a guerrilla marketing campaign with Brewdog. But start prepping the audience. You mentioned prepping the audience. So, put little teasers out about cyberbullying and why it's such a big issue and why it's impacting people of all ages, of all sizes, of all races, etc. And put little sort of dark messages out, if you like, on social places like that that highlight what's happening and highlight celebrities are now getting picked on regardless of size, etc. So you're sort of putting a subconscious image already in the mind of your audience, and then you're ready to come out with a campaign because they understand where it's coming from.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And one of the things that I know we've done in the past is the pre-campaign. Right. So whenever we're proposing something, especially when it comes to influence marketing campaigns, there's always the pre-campaign, the campaign, and the post-campaign. Yeah. The pre-campaign is part of laying that foundation. As an example, we've an influence marketing campaign that we're currently working on has a number of cities that we're going to be visiting. It's a national tour that we're doing with a client of ours, where we're going to have 5 or 6 influencers in each one of these cities recording some work with us. I can't get into the details at this point. But one of the things that we're doing, instead of just getting the influencers, negotiating with them, and then just showing up at the city, recording it and posting it, we're actually having almost a call, like a casting call for influencers, in advance in a public way that's going to highlight what's coming.
Yeah.
So that people will know that this is going to be happening. We're looking for influencers. We're looking for people with a brand affinity, with a certain type of skills. This is why we want them. This is what we're doing. And so there's a community built up in advance.
Right, exactly.
Right. Even when it comes to those cities, we're going to be recording and filming or actually broadcasting the events live. So we're going to be putting out an invitation for people to register to watch it live. Right. So again, everybody knows what's coming. The context is set up, and it just makes that campaign a little bit, better.
It should be smoother, right?
Exactly. So why don't we talk about the BrewDog one?
Yeah.
This one is actually it's like one of those,
Well, yeah, you just wonder, what were what they were thinking again. It goes back, the intentions was awesome. So BrewDog, earlier this year, I think it was, for International Women's Day.
Well, let's give some context.
Yeah, exactly.
BrewDog is a craft brewery in the UK, in Scotland, right?
They originated in Glasgow. They've got
nicest people in the world, by the way.
So they've got a bunch of, and they're kind of like a punk version of the beer industry, but so in recognition of International Women's Day, they wanted to highlight gender inequality when it comes to wages and pay, amongst other things. So they decided the average in the UK, especially the average gender gap when it comes to pay is 20%, which is a huge amount.
It's huge. It's even bigger than it is here.
Exactly, yeah, and it's one of the biggest in Europe, I believe. So it made sense for them to highlight it, and they wanted to show about that. So they decided to release a version of their punk IPA called Pink IPA, beer for girls. And they marketed it to women to say, okay, now women can drink IPA too, that kind of messaging. And of course, they called it Pink IPA. They've got a pink label.
Yeah.
And it was just so stereotypical. Well, it's a girl's colour. It's a girl's, favourite, beer because it's a pink beer, etc. And you just thought, and they were also going to give 20% of the sales to charities and
that fight gender inequality.
Exactly, yeah. So the whole idea behind it was awesome, but again, the execution, the context, it was all out, and they just got hammered on social. And to a degree, they didn't care because they're BrewDog, so they can pretty much do what they want.
They're punks.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, they did realise
they do care because they took the ad down and they stopped selling that. They stopped selling that bottle.
Right, exactly, and it was. So I just think again, you have to be really careful when it comes to what you're trying to say and who you're trying to reach and what the message is when you're actually starting a campaign. Because BrewDogs, I don't know what their sales are. They're huge. They're almost as corporate as you can get without not being crafting it. Exactly. But yeah, the whole campaign was just skewed.
But you know what? Let's see. Here's an example of sarcasm gone awry because they knew what they were doing. This is not unlike the previous case where they had the best examples and they just didn't realize that this was not a good idea. If you take a look at what they posted on Twitter when they announced their, pink IPA, they actually wrote with, a photo of the 3 bottles of pink IPA. We created a beer for girls, and it's pink. Because women only like pink and glitter, right? Hashtag sarcasm. So they knew that this was sarcasm. That that this was a direct contrast with the message, right? Yeah. That they were highlighting the stereotype, and so they did that on purpose. That was their intention, but it went wrong anyway. Right. So while they hashtagged it sarcasm and then wrote, let's show that enough is enough with the stereotypes. Right. So let's use a stereotype to fight the stereotype. Let's call it out. They provided the context. Yeah, exactly. So this is, but it still went wrong. Right. You know what I mean? So where is, the first case we talked about, well, they didn't provide context. Here they did provide context and it still went wrong. Right. So we're leading people astray. Yeah. Well, and I think there was a response on Twitter that highlighted it perfectly. Excuse me, I've got a sore throat today. That tweet there. And it was a picture of a pink globe and pink, hairdryer and everything. And pink tools. That are just, selling to girls because girls like pink. And the tweet said, it's like, stop adding to the problem. If you really want to highlight inequality and gender inequality,
you're not really, doing it properly if you're just adding to it by using the same stereotypes that women
even
are
though
fighting
even though you provided the context, maybe, and it could also be because just the sensitivity of this particular issue today, you know what I mean, is it's even, I think, even more so than trolling online, which for years was like, and still is a big problem, but the whole Me Too movement that's going on right now, and everything that's in the news, this might be clever as it may have tried to be, sarcasm, trying to highlight, stereotype with a stereotype. It might have been one of those topics that was just too sensitive, and that people were going to be so offended by it, even if they recognize that it was sarcasm and that you're trying to do good, they're just not having it.
Yeah, no, right? That's true.
So, and maybe that's, again, for people that are listening, and I want to make sure that we're not saying two different things, because really with these two examples we are saying two different things. Provide context, and here context is provided and it still went wrong. In this particular case, I think that there is always a line. You definitely need to provide the context, but if you're going to provide that context, also understand what is the political, cultural, social, issues that are going on at the time. And in some cases, certain things are just too toxic, that you've really got to think about stepping back. How would this have been avoided?
Again, I mean, it comes back to the pre-campaign message.
Yeah.
If Brewdog had maybe worked with influencers in within the like spokespeople of the gender inequality when it comes to pay gap, work with women that are very vocal about that, and have them prep the audience for the message that's coming out, and saying we're really excited to be working with Brewdog on using stereotypes against stereotype messaging, and try work it that way. So now you've got people that are respected within the industry for speaking out about inequality, and actually working with them and helping shape the message in readiness for the campaign.
Yeah, and even if you weren't going to do, in my mind, even if you weren't going to do the pre-campaign, which I think is definitely something that you should always look to do. What happened, and I think I've mentioned this in a when we were talking about one of the Kardashian massive fails, which seems to be a recurring theme across here. What happened to good old-fashioned focus groups? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it really does seem that there's such a rush today to get to market and to put something out, and maybe a little bit of that, and a little bit of marketing managers just thinking that they don't need a marketing agency. And we don't know if Brewdogs use a marketing agency or not. I'm gonna hope that they didn't, because you know what I mean. I can't imagine any marketing company worth their salt that would actually have recommended something like this. So maybe it's this issue of you're going to market too fast. If you're going to be doing it by yourself, and that you're courting controversy, and clearly this brand likes to court controversy, you might want to get the opinion of an ad agency or a social digital agency, and if you're not going to do that, at a minimum, maybe test it with 5, 6, 7 women in this particular case, and see what their initial gut reaction is, and understand that that's probably going to be indicative of what the rest of the world is going to be looking at.
Saw. Yeah, exactly.
And had they done that, this may not have been quite the negative, branding. And I don't know, as a male, this, gender inequality doesn't really affect me, because luckily I'm on the positive side of that inequality. However, this would turn me off from buying their beer again. I'm one of those consumers that, while the issue doesn't affect me necessarily, their attitude about it, or their exploitation, which you're looking at almost as exploiting the issue, would bother me, and I wouldn't buy from them again. And I suspect there's a lot of people out there like me as well.
Yeah, I know, for sure.
So I mean, this is why it's really advantageous to take that time.
I almost wonder if they'd flipped the message just a little bit and said, "Hey, we're men. We made you girls a pink IPA because we know that's what you like." And put the focus back on male ignorance when it comes to inequality. I wonder if it may have been received a little bit differently, but again, it comes down to the context and how it was.
Well, it does, because again, they're still using that sarcasm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the sarcasm didn't work here. I think maybe it would have worked had they not created a pink IPA. Had they used the same one and just said. But then again, would the message really have come across if they used their standard IPA brand and said, by the way, a percentage of this is going to go? you know, like, and it's true. Sometimes you do have to push the boundary, and this is that fine line that we always have to walk. You want to shake things up a little bit, and to get the attention to drive to a social cause, right? And we know that audiences want to stick to that social cause. Anyway, we're getting Rob is giving us a signal. Hey, Rob,
you not touched that beer yet.
You want to give me your beer? Seriously, give me your beer.
He really doesn't like it, so I think
Robert is sitting there with a thing of tea because he's a teetotaler. So you guys are going to get to know Rob over the upcoming episodes. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'll drink this one. Okay, so final call. Thank you, Stephen, for our bell. Guy from Glasgow.
Exactly.
See how nice people I said that wrong.
You did say you said it an American way, which is interesting.
Because I'm here. We live in North America.
Glasgow.
And we were just there. Well, we weren't in Glasgow. We were in Edinburgh. But
yeah.
I learned how to say Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
All right. So
language.
I know, right?
First, we have to put that as explicit.
Do we got to bleep? All right. So anyway, he sent us our bell. That's how nice the people from there are. So final thoughts for the audience. How do you avoid these issues?
I think, and I know we've said it twice already, but it has to be about knowing your audience, and are they going to accept the message that you're going to put out. Pre-campaign, focus groups, and yes, you need to be edgy to try to differentiate yourself at times, but at what level of edginess do you actually go to before it becomes offensive?
I agree, obviously. I mean, this is the reason we work together. We share a lot of the same ideas here, which is really unusual because we don't always agree, but somehow on these podcasts we seem to be agreeing on almost everything. For me, it is really understanding that line. I like to push the boundary in the campaigns that we come up with, because I think, especially when it comes to a social cause like, trolling and gender inequality, sexism, racism. These are things that do need to be called out. A couple of weeks ago we talked about the importance of a brand getting behind the social cause, because we know millennials are actually looking, the largest population of the workforce today, which means they're going to have the majority of the money very, very soon. They're looking for brands that take a stand on political, social, religious, cultural issues. So I think it's important for people to do this, but understanding when to walk, how to walk that line and go, one way or the other. If you're going to use sarcasm, make sure that the audience, as you said, is going to know it, or do some type of a pre-campaign that will set the stage for what's going to happen. Because if you've got to pull something back at the pre-stage level, it's going to have less of a negative brand impact that it will once you're actually launching the campaign.
And save you a ton of money.
And you're not going to have, blokes like us talking about how crappy your campaign was. Anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you very much once again for joining us. I hope you found some value in this discussion. If you like the podcast, please subscribe so you'll get alerted. If you like the vlog, if you prefer watching these handsome faces, hit subscribe and like. We'd really appreciate it. Any feedback, put it down in the comments. Until next time, guys, thank you very much. Danny Brown, Sam Fiorello. See you later.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Thanks, Robert, for the beer.